Hello chess friends and welcome to your of Chess channel and welcome to an amazing game from the Computer Blitz Chess Championship in 2022. It's Stockfish 15 against another top engine in Stoofvlees, and the cool part about this game is that we'll see again, but really again, a new theoretical novelty. Yesterday we have already seen a beautiful novelty in the Benoni defense. Today it's also the Benoni defense, but it's a little bit different variation of the Benoni. Today we'll see the so-called snake variation of the Benoni. It's, I think, an unpleasant opening that you can face many times, but I still think if you know what you're doing, then if you get out of this opening in an easy way, then I think you can have really a good setup, a good attacking formation. Then I think you can also have fun. Again, Stockfish will introduce these new ideas because again Stockfish will play some moves that have never been played in chess history, so that's why I still think it's something worth to study. Although the snake variation is not maybe the most popular line, and also it's not the most common lines, but still sometimes it can be used as a surprise element, and then you don't want to, of course, to mess it up. You want to know the best continuation. So let's see now how Stockfish 15 handled the snake variation of the Benoni defense. So Stockfish opened with the move d4. We have knight f6, c4. After move e6, we have maybe the preparation to go into the Nimzo after move knight to c3. So that's why we have so far the anti-Nimzo Indian system with the move knight to f3, not allowing this bishop to b4 pinning idea here by black. So here in the continuation we have now the move c5. So basically the game transposes into the so-called Blumenfeld counter gambit, but still, even if it's called the Blumenfeld counter gambit, still will reach the common Benoni structure. Here after move d5 we have reached really the common position of the Benoni defense. Now after move e takes d5 we have c takes d5, and now comes the actual snake variation move, which is now the move bishop to d6. And this is a really unpleasant move because I made a crucial mistake in one of my games. I lost a very important game in the snake variation of the Benoni when I really didn't understand what the idea about this move bishop to d6, because what I did in the continuation of the game, I played knight to c3 and an early e4 move. And the idea about the snake variation, that's why it's called the snake variation, because you're playing with your bishop like a snake all over the board. So you have here sort of a zigzag motif. So that's the idea. We want to place the bishop on a5 where it's attacking the knight on c3, and then if you play too early e4, then you could lose really the battle around the square e4, because in the near future we can also expect the move rook to e8, and that's exactly what happened to me. I lost simply the battle around the square e4, and I really didn't have so much fun in the game. So that's why it's a very important video, how to dismantle this so-called snake variation here from white's perspective. So Stockfish continues with the normal knight to c3, but now after move bishop to c7 we have to play the bishop out. So we want to paralyze, of course, the knight that could control the e4 square. So we have now d6, and okay, you see still it's a Benoni structure. This d6 c5 is many times this Benoni setup, the Benoni pawn setup. Now after move d6 what you have to do is now to play a slightly passive move e3. So you don't want to play e4, although maybe you'll not lose the game immediately because you have played e4, but as I said, you could have really problems because bishop to a5 could happen. The bishop is attacking the knight is controlling the square e4, and that's the line that I played, and as I said, I simply lost the game. So please don't play the line that I've played. So here that's why e3, it's a slightly passive move, but at least you're not vulnerable so much with your pawn on e4. So we have kingside castling, bishop to d3, we have rook to e8, and now bishop to h4, and this is already a new move that has never been played in chess history, but this is not such a, I think, a novelty. The novelty that Stockfish will introduce is after knight from b to d7 and queen to c2 is now queenside castling, and that's the beauty about this line, because never, but really never, in the snake variation of the Benoni defense, a white castled queenside. That's the beauty about the Stockfish game, because Stockfish is saying I have already such a beautiful attacking formation here on the king side. What I need to do is just to secure my king on the queen side, and then maybe launch a flank attack with g4, maybe h4, g5 ideas and similar stuff. So okay, after move queen to c2 we have to also say that the serious but tiny little threat is, of course, this move bishop to h7, because you cannot take knight to h7 because of this pin by the bishop against the knight. So that's why h6 was played by Stoofvlees, but it's already a beautiful idea by Stockfish. At least with the move queen to c2 we have provoked some weaknesses. Now the pawn structure in front of the king is not so solid. At least we have, as we said, provoked some kind of a structural weakness in front of the king. And now comes the beautiful novelty here by Stockfish 15. Stockfish castles queen side. And that's what I loved about this game. That's why I decided to show you this one, because now you can guess what will happen in the next couple moves. Stockfish castle queenside, all of the pieces are out. We have a beautiful rook connection, and the cool part is that we have to really say the pieces of whites are on natural squares. What I mean about natural squares, of course, the knight is really on a good square. On f3, knight on c3, bishop here good, bishop on h4 good, the rooks are connected, so it's beautiful setup. So we have now this idea bishop to a5. So guess what would happen, of course, if we already would have played the move e4. So as we said, we could have maybe some problems then afterwards because of this very annoying bishop's attack. So we have bishop to h7 anyway here by Stockfish, decoying the king to the square h8, and now knight to e4, simply using here the spin. On the dark squares we have queen to e7, and now bishop to f5. Now comes a really critical moment of the game, because what you could do here maybe is to play g6, but this would be really suicide. You would love, of course, to kick away the bishop like this, but this is not going to happen, because look at this, bishop to d7 wins the game immediately. You cannot take out with the knight. Because you lose simply the queen. If you take with the bishop, then bishop to f6 is simply winning the game. It's game over here for black. Look how really already tactically rich this game becomes. Stockfish is continuing the pressure, places the pieces simply on the best next square. So after move bishop to f5, Stoofvlees realized that it has to first defend the position. So Stoofvlees doesn't have any counterplay here on the queen side. Now Stoofvlees plays really a passive move. Bishop to d8 is hoping to have a further control here around the square f6, and it's maybe trying even to escape with the queen on f8, g8, at least for a while, to try to settle this position, and then afterwards maybe if the position is solid, maybe then to launch a flank attack b5, a5, a4, b4, and similar ideas. So here in the continuation, after move bishop to d8, Stockfish continues the pressure with the move g4 immediately. We have a5, Stoofvlees is counter-attacking on the queen side, and now again rook to g1, simply supporting further the g file attack. We have a4, and now g5 immediately. And look at this, what happened. Stockfish actually cut off here the very important pin. So it seems so that finally black can liberate himself by playing the move knight takes e4, but actually this move is really wild, because Stockfish is temporarily sacrificing a piece, because Stockfish plays this very unpleasant g takes h6. It discovers of course this long diagonal for the dark square bishop, and creates also further pressure here around the square g7. So in the continuation, you could play maybe g5 in order to attack the bishop, but you could also play the move f6. F6 is not so good, because you get simply h takes g7, pardon me. We have here king to g8, but now with bishop to e6 the game is over. Look at this, you have to play something like this. We take also first the knight, queen takes e4, and it's game over. So this is not working, so that's why you have to play g5. But Stockfish continues the pressure, plays bishop to g5. We have now knight to g5. If you play even something like knight to f6, you could do also this move. It's not getting even better, because bishop to f6, you can play maybe knight to f6, but look at this. This is the monster move, rook to g7. In the continuation, you could maybe try bishop to f5. Okay, bishop to queen takes f5. Maybe you can include, of course, also the queen into the defense, but look at this. This other rook is coming into the game. This bishop is out of game anyway, so really it's like this snake bishop got really paralyzed on this very weak square on d8. Now after rook to g1, look at this, you can maybe try to continue the pressure, but now with knight to g5 the game is basically over. We're threatening rook to g7 followed with queen to h7. It's a beautiful checkmate. So this idea is not working. So that's why after move bishop to g5 we have said knight to f6 is not working. So that's why here we have knight to g5, we have rook to g5, but still Stockfish is continuing the pressure on the g file. Although Stockfish is down a piece, but as we said, this bishop is simply out of game. Maybe if you try something like this, knight to g5, bishop to g5, maybe you can just prolong the game. I'm not sure. I'm not a big fan of this position. Still, rook to g1 is going to happen. Bishop to d7, bishop to d7. Look at this, the queen is coming into the game. Queen to c3 is very unpleasant. So as I said, in my opinion, a much better position here for white. So after move rook to g5, here knight to e5, played by Stoofvlees, trying to simplify the game by trading off as many as possible pieces, because here the pieces are very active of white. But in the continuation, again, Stockfish played a very active move. Rook takes g7, we have queen to f7, and now rook to h7. And the problem is now many of us would try this idea, bishop to c8, and then with the direct checkmate threat on h7, but this is actually not working because Stoofvlees would have this move, and then still it's probably better for white this position. But as I said, this is not the best of ways how to proceed here from white's perspective. So that's why rook to h7, very important move. We have now king to g8, now rook to g1, attacking the king, and now after king to f8, now comes a very important move, bishop to c8. And look at this, the problem is now you cannot take rook to c8 because then it's really wild. First of all, we play knight to g5, we're threatening here this attack around the square f7. You can maybe try to escape, but the move f4 is now simply winning here for white. Whatever you do, you can maybe try to escape with knight takes g6, but still rook to f7. Look, queen takes f7, knight takes f7, king takes f7, but now queen takes g6 is simply winning the game. So look at this, even after moves f4, you don't have actually a good square. That's really wild. This square is taken, this is not good, you get rook takes f7 anyway. So the only way just to stop a little bit white's progress is this move, knight to g6, but still it's losing for black. So really wild position. So that's why after move bishop to c8, you don't have time to take out the bishop. Here Stoofvlees simply took out the knight, but still it's not getting better because Stockfish builds this powerful attack here on the 7th rank, and again continues the pressure. Again, you don't have time to take out the bishop, which is really wild. Look how Stockfish calculated this position in a wild way, because again you get this one, rook to f7, and it seems so after queen to f7, rook to f7, king to f7, that this is losing for white, because look at this, black is here 4 pieces for the queen, but actually this is a wild position because now we get queen to h7. Queen to f5 is not good because black can cover with bishop to f6 and then connect the rooks. The correct way here, this wasn't of course played in the game, but I wanted to show you what would happen if black would have played the game like this. Queen to h7, you have to play here on f8, because of course if you play on f6, pardon me, if you play on f8, then you get checkmated on g7. So now again queen to g7, you get decoyed towards the center of the board, but now comes the stunning move, queen to d7 is winning the game. Look at this, you have to play something like king to g5, but now we take first of all this rook on e8, and the problem is now this is the passer, the bishop is paralyzed, so you cannot move the bishop, so the queen will take out the rook of course, and the problem is now you cannot even take the pawn on h6 because you get queen to e6 and you lose the rook on c8. So look at this, this pawn is now the best piece on the board, will simply get advanced on h7, h8, and it's simply game over here for black. Look at this, rook to g7, as we said, staying with the bishop here on c8, and the game is over here for black. So in the continuation, knight to e5 was played by Stoofvlees. Stoofvlees tried somehow to again improve the position, getting more pieces into the defense, but now Stockfish plays rook to h8. We have king to e7, rook takes e8, king takes e8, and now rook to g8. Again a very unpleasant check. We have king to e7, but now again this pawn is the most important piece on the board. Look at this, this pawn is marching and it's simply unstoppable. So here in the continuation, Stoofvlees try to prolong the game by playing rook takes c8, but now Stockfish promotes a new queen and it's completely game over. Really wild stuff. Let's see now a couple more moves here after the promotion. We have queen to f3, we have queen to h4, first the check, we have king to d7, and now we have this check again. You have to play king to c7. Stockfish plays now really beautiful queen sacrifice, but it's just a temporary sacrifice because we have this one, queen to a5, you have b6, now we have queen to a7. This is everything is forced here. We have king to c8, now comes queen to a8. Again you have to step back, but now the queen creates this very annoying check. Let's see, sorry, my screen just moved. You have here king to b7, now again a new check, and now after move queen to a7, it's a beautiful checkmate. So really brutal tactics by Stockfish 15 in the beginning. Really this queenside castling idea was also incredible, which is I think really an interesting way to handle this a snake variation of the Benoni. First, we're building a very natural setup here with the queen on c2, bishop on d3. As we said, bishop is fine, knights are perfectly fine, and then castle on queenside. But then the g file attack, we have seen bishop to h7, bishop to f5 was also working. So it was a beautiful attack by Stockfish 15. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. Really interesting ideas of the snake variation. If you want to see more brutal attacks like this, check out my commented chess games played by computer series with some more games played by Stockfish, Alpha Zero, Lila Zero, and many more. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.